Welcome to the Global Marketing Show, where we explore how language and culture impact global business. I'm Wendy Pease, your host and president of Rapport International. Let's get started. Welcome back to another episode of the Global Marketing Show. We're so glad that you've joined us today. If you've listened to an episode before, you'll know that the podcast is brought to us by Rapport, or brought to you by Rapport International, a provider of foreign language written translation and spoken interpretation services in over 200 languages. You can read more about them or go to the Resource Center at www.translations.com. And we do have a tidbit from Rapport International today, and that's about gender terms. In the United States, we tend to use two pronouns to indicate gender, he and she. We're starting to look into using they, but it hasn't fully been accepted in all parts of the United States, but we hope that develops. But there are already several countries and cultures such as South Asia, Mexico, Nigeria, and others that actually have a third gender pronoun. So they're setting a wonderful example for us. Today's guest is Franziska Höhne, and she's a project management professional, a PMP, an industrial engineer, coach, and international speaker specializing in communication during organizational transformation. With nearly 20 years of experience in complex global environments, she works at the intersection of technology, leadership, and psychology to help leaders and teams navigate change with clarity and confidence. Welcome, Franziska.
Thank you, Wendy, for having me.
Oh, I'm very excited about this conversation. It's so applicable to many things. Tell us, what are you currently up to? What are you doing these days?
I'm working as a project manager, as you introduced, and I'm working full time, I would say, for a big retailer in Germany in the international auditing department. And there I'm leading a big digitalization transformation project. And part-time, I'm self-employed with Procradat. And this one is about training, coaching, and as you said, speaking.
Okay, so that's Pro Quadrat, Proquadrat, right?
Exactly. .com if you like to visit my website.
Okay, wonderful. Tell me more about the intersection of those two and then why you decided to start Pro Quadrat.
Well, I'm working as a project manager for almost 20 years now. And I've experienced a lot. I've worked in the automotive industry, in public service in Germany, and now, as I said, for a retailer leading international projects. And I started, I would say, 2 years ago, thinking that I want to share my experience and help people to develop. And this is when I started to think I should have a side business focusing on speaking and on coaching. And this is what I'm doing in this side business part. And this is the intersection of it. So what I've learned in my main business, I would say, is what I transfer to the special side business. Yeah.
You've worked with cultures and languages all over the world in project management, and that could be a particular challenge because you're trying to get people to all move the same way when they don't tend to
Exactly.
do that.
Exactly. This is what I experienced actually right from the beginning because the automotive supplier I've been working with, they had a lead plant here in Germany for their products, and we've been collaborating with the other countries and plants in other countries. So it's Mexico, China, the US. And I always had teams across these nationalities collaborating on achieving a certain goal. And what I always found, it's not about the, I would say, technology behind it. Of course, we have our methods, our tools to achieve that, but to get this group of people together to collaborate on things and to feel like a real team, because I would say, and I love that quote from Aristotle, saying the whole is more than the sum of its parts, and this is also true for teams.
So tell me more about that. How do you do that? How do you get people moving in the same direction?
I start by making sure that, especially for international teams, they know that the person that they see on their screen, let's put it that way, the person that they see on their screen is a real person with a real life. Because what happens, especially in international teams, they happen to never meet each other in real life or only rarely. And this is a very big challenge to make sure that you understand that this is not it's not a TV show. You know what I mean? It's a real
Yeah.
person. They have their family, they have circumstances, it's time zones, it's different language. It's, for example, for me, obviously I'm a German, and when I'm collaborating with people from Austria, from the US, from Australia, which I have in my team right now, we have different levels of proficiency in language. And I also experience that having a US colleague talking to an Australian colleague, there are also some cultural misconceptions of things.
Oh, do tell me about some of them that you've experienced. I love that English across English because, as someone from the United States, so many people here think this is the only way to talk.
Yeah, exactly. And this it starts with pronunciation and with the words they use. We had just yesterday a discussion in the team how we call the warehouse in a store. And the US calls it the back room. The Australian colleagues, and I hope they don't listen to that and prove me wrong, they call it the warehouse. And it starts with these tiny little things giving different names to that. By the way, we have that in German as well. If you're talking to a colleague from Austria or to a German colleague, they also use, although they speak the same language, it's very different terms, I would say.
So you said it starts with the differences in words that people might
Yeah.
use, like
Yes.
back room versus warehouse. What kind of issues have you run into when the terminology didn't make sense, and how do you handle that?
Um, maybe the warehouse thing is not the best example. Maybe let's use a whole sentence that I experienced. We
Okay.
once had a meeting where a colleague from the US told me we should revisit the timeline. And I thought, yeah, if you hear that with my German ear, I would say, it sounds like a nice suggestion. Yeah, if we have time at some point in time, we can do that. And we proceeded with the meeting and didn't look at the schedule actually. And then he called me afterwards and said, Franziska, what's going on? I told you we need to look at the milestones. There's something going on. We are missing that one. And I was like, but you didn't tell me. And he said, I told you. I said we need to revisit it. You know what I mean? It sounded like a polite suggestion to me. And he was like, we have an urgency case here. Let's do that.
Oh, that is, yeah. Let's revisit the timeline. You're thinking,
Yeah,
yeah, sometime we will. And
yeah,
he's
yeah.
thinking we need to do it right now.
Yeah, exactly, exactly. And these are also the little things. Although you hear what people say, you can translate it, you understand that, but you
Yeah.
don't understand the same urgency behind it. And these are the tiny little challenges that you have in everyday life when you're collaborating.
So sometimes people will run into an issue like that and they'll get mad at you and then not be able to work with you. But you've done something where he could call you up afterwards and say, hey, there was this misunderstanding.
Yes.
How do you
Oh, yes.
develop that?
Yeah, exactly. This is what I was about to talk about before, making sure that people know that the other one is a real person. What we do, for example, in the beginning of of projects, and I really love that one, kind of an icebreaker. We start with everyone bringing pictures from themselves as toddlers, and then we show them, and then everyone guesses who this is on the picture that we see there. This is one of the things. You know what I mean? You see that people have a history. They have been children one time long ago. These are things that we are doing, or we are doing regular check-ins in the beginning of a meeting, just having this small talk thing, like a virtual handshake, talking about, hey, what's going on, and not only polite discussions, but having real conversations. So I know that you've been on holiday, or how are you two little girls doing? Something like that.
How do you, when you have a group on a Zoom call,
Hmm.
and you've got different cultures and you've got different personality types. You have some that are more willing to speak up and more willing to share, and you've got other people that are very quiet and they're happy to listen. And that can be cultural, it can be individual. How do you make sure that everybody participates so somebody's not lost in that?
As a project manager, I spend, I would say, almost 90% of the day on calls. So this is not only team meetings, but it's also on one-to-ones, reaching out to people, talking to them, listening to their thoughts, encouraging them to participate or to contribute in a group call. I think it's very important that you make sure you know who the other one is and that you show something from yourself, you show yourself as a private person and share some insights, maybe also faults that you made, mistakes that you made, something like that, so that they feel comfortable doing that as well. So it's the culture that we establish in my project to be very sure that everyone knows that the other one have challenges that they are facing or that they have some, how would you say that, some personality traits, as you said, that they are maybe a little bit shy, they need to be asked during a meeting, something like that. And there are also methods, things that you can apply, like asking people to provide written feedback. If someone is not keen in speaking up, maybe they feel more comfortable in providing written feedback for a concept, for example.
Okay. And then have you found certain cultures to have tendencies in that way? Or do you find it's very individual?
Uh, I think you have personalities in all cultures. Obviously, and this is probably the example that always comes up, is when you're collaborating with Chinese colleagues, they are a little bit more, it feels like shy or very polite to Europeans and maybe also to Americans. But the closer you get to the culture and to the individuals, the better you get to know them, the more they dare to speak up. So I wouldn't say it's really a cultural thing saying everyone from this country is behaving in that way. They say that the Australians are so open and open-minded and stuff like that. I've met an Australian that is more German than I am, from what we say Germans are. So thinking in cultures can also be a trap.
Yeah, yeah. Well, that's why I purposely asked that question. I wanted to
Mhm.
see how you handled it, and that's a good point. Everybody's individuals, right? And so you
Yeah,
have, but I
exactly.
was surprised to hear how much time you spend then following up with people one on one to get to know them. Yeah, and as a project manager, where you're trying to move things forward, that can be hard to carve out that time.
That's the beauty about being a project manager, actually. And this is why I would say this is the greatest job that you can have on earth. Because if you're a project manager, on the one hand, you transition from project to project, obviously. So you get to know a lot of things about different companies, about different departments, and topics that are going on. And you do not need to be the perfect expert on a certain topic. You need to be open, you need to love people, and this is what I do. I love people, understanding them, helping them out, and you're in touch with people the whole day. And this is what makes it great, actually.
Oh, okay. Okay, that's a good way to
Yeah.
look at project management. Yeah.
Yeah, and this is, you don't need to be the expert. And it also evolved over time. I remember, and now I feel a little bit old to be perfectly honest. When I started to be a project manager, we didn't have the Zoom and Teams calls with being able to see other people. We have been on the phone. If you do not receive an answer, does that mean that the connection has broken? Is the other one thinking about something? Are they writing emails? You never know because you
Um,
can't see them. And I'm coming from that time, and now we have these calls, like the two of us. You're in the US, I'm in Germany, and I see you crystal clear on my screen. That's
yeah.
amazing.
It has changed the workforce so much. And the access to information and people and connections, that's definitely been a benefit. but not to discount the human interaction too.
Exactly.
Yeah. How do you think that's changed? So it used to be telephone and human interaction. Now we've got Zoom, but I still hear in a lot of cultures it's important to have that face-to-face connection. Are you seeing some of that drop down, or are you seeing that still stay important?
Of course, it depends, and we get used to that. I think all of us, also due to the pandemic, when the pandemic hit, we didn't even see our neighbors in real life, to be perfectly honest. And this helped us to adopt somehow to that virtual life. Nevertheless, being in the same room with another person, that's different. You feel the energy of the other one, or if I'm going to conferences, I'm obviously as a speaker also a lot of on stage. You can feel the audience, you feel the energy that they have, you feel if they are tired, if they are excited, something like that. And you don't do that in virtual life. And this is
Right.
missing. Of course, it's missing.
Yeah, so you brought up speaking, and you do a lot of speaking. Tell me the kinds of things that you speak about and who you speak to.
So for now, it's mainly the project management community. So, for example, I serve as a vice president marketing in the German Project Management Institute board. So I'm engaged there a lot in the project management community in Germany, and I find myself on stages speaking about PMI. And besides that, I've been on a lot of conferences, also internationally. So I've been in Barcelona. By the way, next week, I'm going to be in Athens. I'm very excited about the Greek
Ooh,
community.
yes.
Speaking about exactly the topic that we are talking about right now, about virtual teams, communication, and the challenges that they face, especially across time zones. This is the third part I would say of the important thing in virtual collaboration, especially for international projects, that you have this time zone thing that you need to include.
Okay, so the first one is you've got to build a community or get people to know each other, right?
Exactly, that you make
Or
sure
the
that you are
real
talking
people.
to people and not to roles. I would say this is how I like to say that.
Okay, and what was the second one?
The second one is make sure that you are aware that the words that you are saying are carrying the weight that formerly the whole room was carrying, I would say, when you've been together in one room. So one sentence, you need to be very sure what you're saying, that words matter more than they did before.
Okay, so that was the example of revisit the timeline. And I think when we talked
Exactly,
earlier,
exactly, exactly.
yeah, you talked about no worries. You want
Yeah,
to tell us about
exactly.
that? And then we'll get into time zone. What was the situation where you had somebody say no worries?
Yeah, this is quite similar to the let's revisit the timeline. And this is about the very polite way, I would say, that English speaking people, I'm not sure if this is an US thing, I would say this is also true for Australia and the UK. If I did something wrong, let's put it that way, I did something wrong, and you say, no worries, I'll handle that. I hear with my German ear, okay, it's not big of a deal. It can mean, I'm not saying it's necessarily the case, but it can mean, what the hell were you thinking? Okay, I handle that for you if you say no worries. But you wouldn't approach me that way, right?
Oh, right. Yeah. So in the US, we'd say no worries. It's like, yeah, I'll take care of it. It's don't bother yourself. No molesta in Spanish. But yeah, in German, you hear, oh, what the hell were you thinking? You really
No, no,
messed
I
up?
would say it's the other way around, actually. I had the impression when talking to my English speaking friends and colleagues that when they say no worries, it's more like I handled that for you. Although I think it's what the hell were you thinking? And I hear, oh, no worries, that's okay, nice. I proceed like I did before. Obviously, you think it's
Huh?
different. That's fun. That's really fun.
That is fun. That is, yeah. Okay. No worries. Yeah. So if I screwed up and somebody said no worries, that is going to have to come with a lot of knowing the person
Uh-huh.
and
Maybe.
knowing how bad I screwed up.
Uh-huh.
because they
So
maybe
maybe it's not
say,
the best example to take. That's important that I know that because I use that also. I use it quite often actually, this no worries thing. In when I'm trying to explain this difference in the perception of small sentences, like let's revisit the timeline. And now, as I hear and see your reaction to that, I feel like it's not, I cannot tell that every English speaking person means it the same way.
right. And I think about it, I don't know if I'd say no
Hmm.
worries. I might say, oh, that's okay if I was trying to minimize it. You know, like,
Uh-huh.
oh, you screwed up. Oh, that's okay. We can move on from here. I
Hmm.
don't know if I'd use no worries, but I know it's commonly used.
Interesting. But here you have the
Yeah.
differences from, yeah, it's a very individual language and how you're saying things and what you mean by it. Here it comes back to the person, to the individual, right?
Right. Right. It does. And then the full cultural awareness and the
Uh,
reaction and how people are going to
exactly.
use it. So just English to English, like a Brit saying no worries could have a very different from US.
Hmm. Yeah.
Yeah. Oh, that's good. Okay. So you said one was real people, not roles. Two was aware words that carry meaning. And then the
Uh-huh.
third is time zones. Do you want to talk a little bit about that?
Oh yeah. The time
Yeah.
zones thing is the one of the most challenging things in my project actually right now. Because we have colleagues from Europe, so Germany and Austria and the UK. We have colleagues from the US and from Australia. In winter time, this means speaking, looking at the situation from Germany, the Australian colleagues are 10 hours, would you say, ahead of us? So it's late night. If it's midnight, if it's lunchtime for me, it's almost midnight for them. It's 10 p.m. And
Yeah.
for the US colleagues, it's the other way around. It's 6 hours behind us, so it's very early morning. Try to put them all on a call
Oh
for one or
my.
2 hours. Yeah, exactly. And this is where it gets hard. And to have the awareness for that, what it means to sit there at 10 p.m. or maybe at 4 a.m. in the morning being on a call, this is the hard thing. And how we solved it in our project is saying this is really that's a bad situation. And we did two things. First of all, we rotated. So it's not always the same people being there up late night. You can rotate. You can also have a friendly time for the US and Australian colleagues, which means it's late night for Germany. And that's fine. You need to experience that. You need to sit there for 2 hours until midnight and see how your brain is working at that point in time.
Right, right.
And the other one is, and this is really a recommendation that I give to everyone working in that context, be sure that you have a structure behind the whole thing, that you know which information is stored where to document decisions, how do you communicate, um, what kind of expectations are there or assumptions on reaction times? If I'm sending an email, a chat, or whatever, how fast do I expect my colleagues to respond to that? Always keeping these time zones in the back of my head.
So do you formally put that out at the beginning of a project of these are what
Yes,
my
yes, we
expectations
do
are?
that. We do that. Yeah.
And I have tried to schedule something across all those time zones and it is brutal. What times have you found? Like, do you have three set times to give people different advantage or is it all over the place?
As we rotate, we happen that everyone's sitting there in the middle of the night. So from time to time. So it's like rotating that. So one for one meeting, it's me in Germany. I'm there for lunchtime, and for the next meeting, if they are regular meetings, I'm there at 10 p.m. And if you rotate that, then it can be in the afternoon or early morning in the at the other side of the world, I would say. You know what I mean? So this
Okay.
is what I mean by rotating, so that everyone is once in the position to be there at an unfriendly, out of working hours time, I would say.
Okay. So yeah, if you do Germany lunchtime and 10 p.m., then the US would be like 6 a.m. and 4
Yeah,
p.m.
yeah, exactly.
And then I've lost where Australia would be. They would be 10
10
hours
p.m.
ahead. So lunch would
Yeah,
be 10 p.m. and then it would be
in the US 6
8
a.m.
a.m. Yeah.
Exactly. And if you then rotate, let's start from Australia. If they are there at 8 a.m., 10 hours back is 10 p.m. in Germany, 6 hours back is yeah, as you said, 4 p.m. in the US. And this is also okay.
Okay.
That's okay for US and Australia. Then, yeah, if you are in Germany, bad luck. But you need to
Yeah.
rotate that to have a friendly or a nice situation for everyone at some point in time. So
Okay.
this is how we solved it, and it works out quite well.
You know what? I think that's one of the biggest nuggets I've just learned because whenever I've tried to schedule, I go, okay, well, I'll put it at 10 a.m. US time and it's still
Hmm.
daylight there, but Australia's always left out or Asia's,
Exactly.
it's a hard time. So, yeah, that's really interesting. So, well, let's see. We did 1, 2, and 3. Do you have a number
Exactly.
4 or should I go on to translation questions?
No, I would say it's these three. I love to talk about the triangle so that you have the language. That's a pity people cannot see me doing that. It's like you have the language, like talking. It's about equality in roles, and you have the structure across the. Want to take a picture of that?
Yeah,
You
well,
have
we'll
the
put that
structure.
on. So do that for video again and explain what it is. You've got
I do
your hands
the
together
whole
and
thing.
making a
Okay.
circle. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. It's not a circle. It's a triangle, Wendy.
Triangle, triangle. Sorry. I
It's a
knew it was wrong.
triangle. So in the top you have the language, like speaking. This should look like a mouth, what I'm doing right now. And then
Ah,
you have like people need to see themselves as equal. This is why I would do that one, like putting my hands together, like equal. And we have the structure which is necessary. So you have the like for a triangle, you have that structure, this nice geometrical form, which might be an engineer thing that I love that.
yeah. That is very creative. Did you come up with that?
Yeah, I do that for my speeches actually. I make everyone from stage doing that thing like it's like activating people. Yeah, to get if you get to do something, it's easier to get it into your brain.
Right, exactly. That is very creative. Okay, now language. Like
Yeah,
you hear English is the global language, but you and I
it is.
know that if you only do that, people are going to miss stuff. So how have you handled translation before in these multilingual, multicultural
What do you mean by
situations?
handled? We all speak English. Actually, we communicate in English.
You do, you don't do any translation?
No, actually, no.
Wow.
We haven't. It happens that we have some proofreading. For example, now for the auditing, I'm working in an auditing department, so the project is in an auditing department, and they happen to have proofreading, or if we need it for certain countries, for example, for the Southeast in Europe, I think they happen to have it translated into the local languages like Hungarian or yeah, or Italian. But we try in our collaboration, speaking about my collaboration,
Mm.
we focus on yeah, speaking and improving our English. That's why we send also people to English courses to get them on C2 level as fast as possible.
Oh, okay. So you're working with pretty senior people that have the
Exactly,
ability to
exactly,
speak
exactly,
English
exactly.
and you're giving them training. And then say more about when it gets out to the local languages. What do you translate then?
It can be for reports that are sent out where it makes sense that if you would send it, for example, to a store, it can make sense to have it translated in a different language. Yeah, that could be a case. Or for policies, and this could also be vice versa, by the way. If you have, for example, as an auditor, you come to a different country, and then obviously in Hungary, they would have their policies for stores and so on in Hungarian, and then you need a translation of that. I've
Right.
once been, yeah, in China and I received a Chinese policy and I was like, yeah, thank you. What am I going to do with that right now? And then, of course, you need a translation because it's made for local people. And if you're not from there, then you need a translation into a language that you understand, be it German, English, or whatever language.
And so the company leaves that up to the local market to translate, or do they have any standards or guidelines from a corporate level?
We have a corporate translation department actually, and they support us with proofreading and with translations. And we have a
Oh,
style
okay.
guide. Yeah, and we have obviously also a style guide for German and English at least. I'm not sure for the other languages, saying how do you spell things, how do you write things. It's about numbers. Do you write 10 ten or is it 10, stuff like that.
Okay. Okay. That's what I was wondering. I was like,
Yeah.
all of your
No, no,
stores
no, no,
couldn't
no,
be.
no, no,
Yeah.
no, 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 no. I was just talking about my project team. Yeah.
Your project team, and
No,
then
I was
people are
just,
picked because they speak
yeah,
enough English, but
exactly.
then the actual business that is going out.
Yeah.
Yeah, and is your internal corporate translation team, are they using AI at all, or what's your feeling about AI and translation?
They are using a tool from time to time. I'm not perfectly sure which one, but I know that they are using a tool and it's probably also based on AI. When it comes to using AI for translations, me personally, I only use it for proofreading. So, for example, if I'm doing a post for LinkedIn or if I prepare, I've contributed to a book when I prepared it in English, I send it to the AI for proofreading, but I would not do a translation in AI, actually.
Right.
Because I think that every human has their own way saying things, and AI is kind of how do you say that? Like leveling everything to the same way of speaking, and that
Yes.
yeah no
Bland, or
yeah
without
thank you
personality is what I'd
yeah
say.
yeah no that's weird no don't like that
Yeah,
wouldn't do that.
yeah. We are kind of running out of time, but I wanted to take the time to talk about your book. Can you tell me about that?
Oh, yeah, I would be happy to. I've contributed to a book that was done together with the Global Speaking Federation. And we contributed together with 31 international authors to that book, and everyone shared their insights.
Yes. And so that's a good picture we'll put on social media. And what's the name of it?
It's called Global Voices Shaping the Future. And
And
it provides insights from colleagues all across the world on their expertise regarding leadership, teams, and future readiness.
wow.
And I have my chapter in there actually, yeah, speaking about the three main points I was just talking about that I share also on stage. So yeah, I've put that as a chapter in the book.
And how did this group of people come together to make this book?
Well, this was an initiative from the Speaking Federation. They say they want to have that, and then send out a request to all the local chapters of the organization. So I read about it from the German Speakers Association. There was a post in our group, and then they put us all together, and we were very lucky to have someone leading this project and yeah, bringing all of us together and making sure everyone's ready, everyone knows how to write, and yeah, bring everything to market. And this was amazing actually from a project perspective, because I've been accepted in September to contribute, and the book was published on 14th of March, which is the International Speaker Day.
Wow.
So it was
That is
very
the
fast.
fastest book creation ever.
Exactly.
Oh. And where can people buy the book if they're interested in reading Global Voices Shaping the Future?
In every bookstore, I would say. And of course, I'm not sure whether I should do here advertisement for the big A. Should I? For Amazon?
And you can buy it on Amazon. Yeah.
You can buy it on Amazon or in your local bookstore.
Yes.
Yeah, I have it on my website. I'm happy to share the ISBN number with you, maybe for the show notes, if people are
Oh,
interested in
okay.
having a look.
That
Yeah,
would be
sure.
great. We'll put it in the show notes. And we'll put a link to it
That would be great.
and on your website. We can buy it.
Yes.
Support the local businesses. I like that idea. Yeah. And where can people reach you if they want to find out more?
They can visit me on LinkedIn. I have a LinkedIn site, or they visit my website, where they also have a contact form, and they can also find some download material. What I've been just talking about, I have a little PDF that you can download there, giving you all the tools I've been talking about for the 3 things and how to apply it in daily life. It's a free download. You just click on see picture, and
Okay.
that would
And
be
what's
nice.
your website address?
It's, as you said, proquadrat.com.
Okay. PROQUADRT.com. And on LinkedIn, you can find her. Franziska is the German spelling, Franziska, and then Höhne, Hohne. But I don't know, do you say that in German as an O, or what letter would you call that?
We say, I think it's spelled with OE on LinkedIn. Maybe we should put that in the show notes as well.
We'll put that in the show notes. Or you
I
can
guess
go,
it can be complicated otherwise.
yes, it's HO with the 2 dots on top, and then the
Exactly. And I was
HNE.
wondering how you say that O with the 2 dots in English. In German, we would say Ö, we call it Ö. So it's Höhne.
Ooh, okay. Yeah, I was going to look quickly, but we'll put it on the show notes so you don't have to hang on while I'm here. So, any final words?
Be brave, see people that you're talking to virtually, and be sure that you're not only talking to the role, but to a real person. This would be my final words and my advice to your audience. And keep on listening to the marketing show podcast, because this is one of the best ones that I know, and I've listened to a lot before I applied for being here.
Oh, well, thank you so much. I really appreciate that. And I can see why you would be a fantastic project manager, because you are so personable, so smart, and so creative. I can tell just from these conversations we have. So
Thank you.
thank you so much for coming on the show today. And listeners, if you want to learn more, you can go to the show notes, and we will have her contact information on there. And you can look on social media to find out how she does the hand symbols when she's speaking. And of course, look for places where she might be speaking. And just a reminder, if you like this episode, give it a 5 and make sure to follow us so you can catch us next time. Au revoir, or auf Wiedersehen.
Auf Wiedersehen.
Thank you for listening to this episode of the Global Marketing Show. We started this podcast to capture the stories of people who do global marketing and work for companies that export, since those companies have higher revenues, higher profits, higher valuations, higher salaries, and more stability, according to the U.S. Department of Commerce. If you enjoyed this podcast episode, please leave a review and subscribe. And if you know somebody who would be a good guest, introduce them to me, your host, Wendy Mackenzie Pease. If you'd like to learn more about global marketing or language translation and interpretation, visit Rapport International's Resource Center at www.rapporttranslations.com. Au revoir. Hasta luego. Ciao for now.